And we kick off this evening. And we kick off this evening with a look at the cinema.
I'm not a complicated man. I like cinema.
It's beautiful, beautiful cinema.
Cinema history come to life.
I found my solace in the small cinema I went to every Thursday night.
I'm a professor of cinema.
I go to the cinema for the stories.
There was no competition between the cinema and seminar.
I mean, it's not within the realm of conventional cinema.
And now,
here's Pace and Johnson.
the cinema review.
It's Monday, March 20th, 8 EST, and welcome back to another episode of Cinemaster's Reviews. Today we will be reviewing Shazam, Fury of the Gods, and Inside, the new Willem Dafoe movie. I'm your host, Payson Johnson, the Cinemaster, and joining me for our first review tonight, he is the one, the only, one of my favorite people in this community, Caleb, the King Coho, or just Caleb Coho.
That's good. Let's go.
Hi.
I'm excited to be here. I was gonna do Creed 3, and I times just didn't work out. But I'm so excited to be here to talk about a movie. It's a movie.
No, 100%. I love talking movies with you, Coho. We don't agree a lot of the times, but it's always fun just debating stuff. And I want to get you on today because I know you consider yourself kind of a DC apologist. Would that be fair?
That is a very fair way. I like DC more than Marvel in a general sense. When it comes to the characters, the comics, the stories, I generally find myself like DC more. I think the MCU is dunking on DC when it comes to film, which is unfortunate because I think my favorite superhero is like Superman. So like I love DC. But I would say, yeah, when it comes to the DCU, while it's not the stories I would tell and I love, I do enjoy going to DC more than the average person.
If I'm being honest, I'm honestly in the same boat as you. Like, I do think in terms of movies, it's kind of hard to deny that Marvel is superior to DC right now. But like in terms of the comics and in terms of the stories and in terms of the heroes, I've always been someone that likes DC more. Which, speaking of which, let's just jump into our first review. Shazam, Fury of the Gods. This is the sequel to 2019 Shazam, once again directed by David F. Sandberg. We are once again following the character of Billy Batson, who is coming to grips with his role as the hero of Shazam, while also trying to keep his family together. Coho, I'm not going to ask for your entire thoughts on the Worlds of DC franchise, but what is your thoughts on the first Shazam?
So I think that you know you didn't ask for it, but I'll give it to you real quick. I think the DCU franchise as a whole started off super rocky. I don't like Man of Steel. I don't like Zack Snyder's interpretation of the character of Superman whatsoever. But I do appreciate the idea he's going for, though I wouldn't have made it. And I think when they course corrected into more hopeful versions of these characters, I think they started to get it right. I think Wonder Woman is great. I think Shazam is great. I think the first Shazam is the best movie in the franchise. It's a terrific, fun, coming-of-age comedy wrapped up inside of a PG-13 Deadpool, essentially. It's kind of that sort of metatextual playing with the idea of superheroes without going into, like, explicit dumb territory. And also, like, while, like, Savannah's not the most compelling villain, he's a pretty solid antagonist for an entry-level origin story. And what both the original Wonder Woman and Shazam do for me is similar to what I would say 1989's Batman or Superman the movie or even Raimi's Spider-Man do for me, which is like it gives me the template for that character. It's like this is the version we're going to base all cinematic versions of this person on going forward if we ever go back to it. And Shazam has that classic first movie introduction feel to it. And this movie went in an unexpected direction for me that I overall enjoyed. I like that Billy Batson his psyche is really front and center and explores the themes of that first movie again, even deeper and continuing that idea of like finding acceptance and belonging. And once you found it, how do you keep it without losing it? And like dealing with his abandonment issues, I think is a really very smart decision. I love Shazam 1. I think it's great.
No, 100%. We're honestly in the same boat. I enjoy the Suicide Squad. I really like Wonder Woman. The first Shazam is my favorite Worlds of DC movie, and I think it just hits the perfect blend of tone for me of like, it's definitely like lighthearted and like cheesy in a way, but it's still, you still care so much about the characters and care so much about like what's happening. I think the humor really, really works. Still, a scene I love is where Shazam and Freddy go to buy beer and they're like, oh man, can't wait to try it. They sip it, spit it out. This is disgusting. They go back in and just trade it all for candy. Like, I think that is such a fun tonal thing. And in regards to Shazam Fury of the Gods, I definitely think this movie, for better or for worse, is more of the same. And as someone who really liked the first one, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. You're definitely retreading some things, but I think you're also exploring some new things in a really cool way. I think one of my favorite things about this movie, like you said, is the fact that Billy is trying to keep this family desperately together. He's starting to notice that certain members of the family are starting to branch out and wanting to do their own things. And Billy is someone that came from, whose mom abandoned him as a young child, doesn't want to let his family go. What did you think about the character of Billy in this movie, Coho?
So I love Billy Batson in these movies. I think they characterize this kid really well. I think Asher Angel's terrific. I think he does such a good job at this role. I love that we kind of have this positive forward momentum with this character and in this universe where it's like, we're not forgetting anything he learned from the last movie. He's taking everything he learned and applying it in a way where now he's learning a new lesson from it, where it's now he had to learn to be part of a family. Now he's learning how to let some of those family members have some space, and that space is okay. And that's a very hard lesson to learn. And I think that both Asher Angel and Zachary Levi do a great job of playing that. I think that Zachary Levi I love Zachary Levi as an actor. I think he's a very fun comedic presence. And I think he plays this part so well, like hand in glove is perfect for this part. And I really do hope he gets to continue on in the new DCU in this part, because I think he's great. And I think he's even better in this one than he is in the first one, because he gets to play with new dimensions to this role, where he gets to be that cocky character that he was by the end, but also have to be out of his depth a little more. I think he does a great job playing with it. And I think Billy is great in this. I love seeing him be on his back foot. I love seeing him try and be a leader when in the last one, Billy was the learner, and to see him sort of try and teach all the people around him while still learning himself. And like, that's the big challenge for Shazam, is to make this character who is an adult, like a full-on adult figure, have to be immature, childish, and like not childish in the sense of like selfish, but childish in the sense of he doesn't know anything yet. And like has to learn just basic human life lessons while looking like a 40-year-old man is kind of a really fun thing that Zachary Levi and Asher Angel pull off together.
100%. Yeah, I think I'm honestly with you. Like, I think Zachary Levi just knows this character so well as the adult version of Shazam. And Asher Angel, I think, is also great too. I love that Levi knows that he's no longer playing like a 13-year-old. Like, this is now someone in high school who like is still like dumb in their own right, but like for different reasons. And
yeah,
I think
it's a new layer of dumb.
Yeah, 100%. He's still learning a lot. And I think that's really, really cool. I also really liked the family once again. I think the two standouts for me in this movie were Grace Caroline Curry as Mary, who from the last movie, she's the oldest sister, and she was trying to get into college in the last movie. In this one, we learned that those plans didn't really go through, mainly because she wanted to stay behind with this family, and I kind of like how you see how that has affected her psyche as a whole. And I love Faith Herman as Darla. Like, Darla is the youngest daughter. She's definitely the smart aleck of the family, and you just kind of love like everything she does. And yeah, those were definitely my two favorite. I didn't quite love Freddy as much as I did in this movie. I think it's just because I don't think he had like the most interesting stuff to do. I think I just liked that relationship between Billy from the last movie, but those two members of the family were definitely my favorite. Oh, what did you think about the family, Coho?
So I bought Jack Dylan Grazer's stock back in 2017, and I've been riding it since it. I think this kid is a mega talent. I love him. I think he's great in everything, from Beautiful Boy to the first Shazam to this, to Luca. Like, I think he's a very funny guy. And I think he's not quite as good as the first one, but he's still my MVP. I think he's so good at being a new level of that like relief, where now he gets that dream that he always wanted on the first one. I'm a superhero. I am a superhero, and having him like try and find his name and like taking it the most seriously of everyone in terms of like, this is my thing, but having the most fun with it of anyone because he's like an expert. He's the most expert of the group at what you're supposed to do. And to then put romance into the equation and see him and Rachel Zegler's chemistry, which is honestly surprisingly good. They have surprisingly good chemistry, the two of them. Their romance and like how he goes into his sort of rigmarole of like fast talking, quipping, which is my favorite part of the Shazam family. And I think he does such a good job of doing that. And I honestly, part of me is that Adam Brody didn't get to be the adult version very much. We didn't get a lot of him. I thought he was really good in the couple scenes where he got to play the adult version of Freddy. But I'm also really happy that we got young Freddy. The directors and everyone knows Jack Dylan Grazer is Freddy. He's the best version of Freddy, and he's so good at that part. And that it's almost too important to not have Grazer in the role, which I think they made a really good decision to have the younger Mary actors be the adult Mary actors in this one, because the difference between her and Grace Fulton in the last one was minuscule, where it's like you can't really tell the age like that she's an adult. So just getting Grace Fulton out of there and her play both versions of Mary, and she absolutely steps into the play and kills it. She's one of my other MVPs. I think you're right, she's fantastic. To give her that dimension of had her all and then Billy convinced her to give it up to be Mary Marvel and to be a superhero with them, and that might not be exactly what she wanted, and she's feeling that repercussion now, and like that's so good. I think that's really good. I do like Darla. I think she's fine. I like Eugene and Pedro. I like the jokes with Pedro, especially the third act twist. I was like, that's kind of fun. I like him. I think Pedro's fun. But on the whole, I would say Freddy and Mary are my MVPs from the family. I think seeing the family dynamic, working them as adults as superheroes is fun. And to have them be like the Philadelphia Flounders or something, where it's just like Fiascos. Yeah, the Philadelphia Fiascos is like so great, where it's like there's just no one, they're kids, so they're not good at their job, but they're trying. No. And to see the city of Philadelphia be like, we're fucked. Metropolis gets Superman. We get the fucking this shit show of these characters, and I think that's my favorite thing that Sandberg just completely understands. Is like, this is the reality of having a group of 6 or 7, like high school to middle school aged kids be superheroes with superpowers. Is it's not going to go smoothly. It's not Batman and Superman saving the world.
No, 100%. I also love how like their foster parents hate the Philadelphia Fiascos and are always like, oh man, they're coming here destroying the city, what the heck? And the kids just have to be like silent the whole time. I think that really brings like a really unique dynamic. Yeah, like you said, I also enjoyed the jokes with Pedro. I think it's just because they do it just enough, like, and it's really not in focus. Like, I think if they would have like kept going back to that well, I think it would have gotten a little eye-rolly, but I think it was just used the perfect amount that it was really effective. Yeah, like you, I would also say Mary is my MVP, and I still think Jack Dylan Grazer is such a talent. Like, I think he's just one of the most fun young actors. I think just the thing is, like, I think there's a good chunk of this movie that I think they're not using him, like, to his fullest potential with where the character of Freddy goes in the story, and that was a little irritating for me, but I still do love the actor of Jack Dylan Grazer.
I think Jack Dylan Grazer deserves to be even bigger than he is. Like, this kid, like, I think he should be leading, like, his own. I mean, like, leading the Shazam franchise, he kind of is. He's, like, a major supporting player, but, like, give him something else. Give him, like, some sort of comedy franchise to be in charge of, because he's so good. He's so young that it's like, this kid's going to be around for years and doing this and being good at it. He's just a great talent. I think when it comes to the cast and the different characters, like, I think that's the big issue with Shazam 2 being less of a buddy comedy and more of an ensemble piece, is you have so many mouths to feed and not a lot of people get a lot of stuff to do because they weren't given a lot to do in the last one, so you have more responsibility and not all of them. Like, for people like Darla, who gets to do more, and Mary, who gets to do more, that's great because we get more time with them, and Eugene and Pedro still get a little bit of the short end of the stick because they didn't have too much characterization in the last one. They still don't have too much characterization in this one, but they're fine. Whereas, you know, Billy and Freddy still get the spotlight, which they have to be from the first one. I think the most interesting decision to do is to bring back the Wizard. I think having Jaimon Hansu come back in this one was such a surprise and honestly kind of a treat, because I think Jaimon Hansu is a very underrated actor, and I think he's pretty good as the Wizard, but he's very, like, bland in the first one, and to give him more of a comedic, like, angry adult presence in this, where it's like, I trusted a bunch of kids and that was a fucking mistake, to kind of let him Roy Kent his way through this movie and be that character is so great. I think he steps up and crushes it. Just the constant, just like not calling him Freddy, calling him all the wrong names, I think is just so good. I think that's a funny running bit. And I think that Rachel Zegler is a great addition. I think that, I mean, her interviews, they're just like, I honestly just did it for the money. It's like, fair, but you still showed up and did the work and were really fun. I think she fits in that Shazam world so well.
I am right there with you where I'm really happy they gave Jaimon Hansu more to do in this movie. Jaimon Hansu is always just one of those actors that I don't think has ever really gotten, like, fully his due. When, like, I think I love him in almost everything he shows up in, whether it's Amistad or whether it's Gladiator or Blood Diamond. Or I always think he's really, really great. You touched on her earlier, and I want to touch into this whole these new characters they added. Essentially, the two major antagonists that we are introduced to in this movie, Hespera and I wrote it down, Calypso, the two sisters that are the antagonists of this movie, played by Lucy Liu and Helen Mirren, and Rachel Zegler, who plays Anne, I thought were pretty interesting additions. Of those three, Helen Mirren was my personal favorite. Like, I just think she added so much, like, power and gravitas to this role, while also knowing exactly what type of movie she was in. Like, she was taking it just seriously enough for me. Lucy Liu, I think, was fine. I don't think she quite got the tone as much as Helen Mirren. And Rachel Zegler, like you said, I think she was great. I wish the movie would have given her a little bit more to do, at least in the final act. But I still think she was a lot of fun. What did you think about these new characters, Goro?
I think they're fine. I think Zegler is the best one to me because there's like more dimension to Athena, or Anne. I think that she's pretty good. I think Helen Mirren and Lucy Liu are fine. Those are big names to get for nothing roles. I think this is the issue we run into with Shazam. Black Adam is really the only interesting villain he has, and we gave him his own movie that was not good whatsoever. And we left The Rock is a great casting choice if he just played him as a villain in a Shazam movie. I think that would have been great. But like, I think that's just, we didn't get that. I think Mark Strong Savannah's the only other decent Shazam villain you can use. You used him, and Mr. Mind. And Mr. Mind is clearly, I think I read a thing where Mr. Mind was going to be the catalyst to make this movie work, where he was going to be the reason the gods come through. And they just didn't have enough time in the story to make that work. And also because I don't think they're making a Shazam 3. They were like, we don't want to use Mr. Mind. It's just a dead plot thread, which his post-credit scene with that is so funny. I love how they wrap that one up. Is great. I think Sandberg has got a great comedic timing. But I think that the villains themselves are probably one of the weaker elements of the movie for me. I don't think their motivations go much deeper than kids have our power and we want it back, which is like, in theory, a solid start to a motivation. There need to be more. There need to be a little bit deeper. I think you could have added an extra layer to Lucy Liu. And I guess the one element that they also sort of have, but they don't quite go into, is their antithetical family dynamic, where it's like we have a family of 3 sisters going after a family of 5, a family that was put together by blood versus a family that is put together by chance that they choose. And I think that could have been a really great setup for a premise for a third act and a conclusion of a conflict. But I think Helen Mirren and Lucy Liu are not given enough to do. I think Helen Mirren ends up coming out ahead of Lucy Liu. I think she ends up getting a little bit more to do in that third act, even though she gets sidelined a bit. And I think Lucy Liu is a solid choice for a physically intimidating villain, but she doesn't get to be physically intimidating. She gets to ride CGI creatures. It's like, if you just let Lucy Liu kick the shit out of people, I'm like, cool. That would be cool, because Mark Strong, even though he's flying, got to kick the shit out of Shazam. Like, you had physical hand-to-hand combat. There's not physical hand-to-hand combat between Lucy Liu and Shazam, and that's unfortunate, because I think that would have been really cool is if it's not even Helen Mirren that he is at the table, if Lucy Liu's the one at the table, and then beats the hell out of him in their first encounter, and you're like, oh, she could kill him. I think that would be really cool, and letting Lucy Liu really take a more leading presence in that dynamic a little bit sooner. But that's sort of my big issue with this movie, is I just don't think the villains are fully fleshed out enough. And that's not necessarily the actor's fault or even the writer's fault. There's not much you can do with Shazam's Rogues Gallery. It's very lax.
No, 100%. Even if you can't flesh them out too much, I think you needed your Thor Ragnarok Hela destroys Thor's hammer moment. You need that moment of just oh, they are on just such a bigger level than him. to really like get the threat. I'm definitely with you. They are essentially nothing roles. I think Helen Mirren just knew what to bring and to like come out on top just a little bit more than Lucy Liu. You touched on it a little. The climax of this movie, I was a little hit or miss on, if I'm being honest. On the one hand, it goes balls to the wall. Like, they are bringing in all these cool things from different sides of mythology, but at the same time, there was a lot of CGI being used, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing, but I could tell I think it needed a little bit more of a cleanup to not look like the mesh that I think we kind of got through the climax of this movie. How did you feel in the third act, Coho?
I think the third act is honestly the part where this movie started to lose me, because I think I really liked the first two acts, and then the third act really plummeted it down for me, where it's I think if you took a little bit more of a practical approach, a little bit more physical combat. I know Shazam has all these powers of the gods, and you have someone who wants their power back. I think it'd be really cool if you put them on the same even level and have her win the first time, and then on the second time with their powers, it's a little bit more. That's how he gets the advantage. But like, I know that the third act has to have the powers, but I think you could have done a little bit more than making the same CGI creatures that I feel like I saw in the last one. There's nothing that differentiates this dragon to me except that it looks like a dragon from the seven deadly sins from the first one. I think everything that they do in the DCEU. That's a big issue for me. For a lot of them, they don't really care what the big CGI cloud monster at the end needs to look like, so they all end up looking the same. Doomsday doesn't look too different from this cloud, which doesn't look too different from the seven deadly sins, which doesn't look too different from Ares, which doesn't look different from Steppenwolf. So it's like all these villains kind of all look the same-ish and have the same style fight, and that makes it really boring. So I think you could have done something really cool, and you started doing something really cool by cutting Billy off from his family inside a dome in Philly Stadium. And I think that's really cool of a way to go, is to kind of trap these two in close quarters with all these powers and have them hash it out to the death. And I think that would have been really cool, and it kind of goes that way, but it doesn't quite commit to that idea. And that's what really drove me nuts, is that it ended up feeling very generic by the end, when you had a really cool idea. And also, we don't really touch on the repercussions of three god ladies putting the city of Philadelphia into a dome for like a week. Like, I think that's a pretty big deal. Like, you would think that would attract the attention of Batman or something to take a look at that, but like, I don't know.
Everyone seemed to be doing pretty fine inside this dome. Like, I feel like tensions would have started to rise a little bit.
That I love. That's the thing, is I almost wanted this third act to be a little bit more like the third act of The Dark Knight Rises. Like, I wanted this third act to be like the most unrealistic thing is to have the city of Philadelphia trapped in a close quarters dome and they don't light shit on fire.
Especially like Philadelphia of all cities, like that city is going to be destroyed within a day.
Yeah, I think that's crazy. Is that like it's not a very like, I know it's I'm about to say the words realistic in a world where there's a kid who turns into a god, but like I just think like Philly is there's so many cool ideas like world-wise that you can do with like the fallout of that. And a third Shazam, I feel like, would have dealt with that a little bit in like a comedic way, where where the MCU now just treats the snap, where they call it like the blip, and like when some people say the blip, it's dramatic, and some people say the blip and it sounds like comedy. I feel like they would have done something similar where it's like the dome and have been like a funny joke in Shazam 3. But like I hate that they don't quite commit fully to this idea or what that means for the world. And that's the other thing I don't like about the DCU, is that this happens, and I'll give this movie this one feels more connected than the last one, which is fair because this is the second one. It should feel more connected.
I'm 100%.
I feel like that's my issue, is that like this giant thing happens, and it happens over a sizable period enough of time where other people would notice and get involved. Where it's like Superman is alive and well again in this world, and where is he? He's somewhere in the Middle East checking up on Black Adam in a post-credit scene where he's just on Amanda Waller's word.
He is changing the hierarchy, Coho. He's changing the
hierarchy. I know. I'm sorry. I forgot. He is reshaping the hierarchy and being recast.
Yes.
But like Batman is out and about doing stuff with the Flash. I assume there's the Flash is out here. Like, as we know from we know Green Lanterns exist. Martian Manhunter's around. Like Aquaman, somewhat Wonder Woman. Like, there's so many people who in a post Justice League world would notice the city of Philadelphia being trapped like this, especially when there's not a world-ending threat that any of them have dealt with in a post-Justice League world. We're like, I can maybe give Aquaman a pass because he doesn't fuck with humans. He's like, I'm gonna go deal with Atlantis. But like, when you look at the rest of it, the Suicide Squad would get involved. Waller would send them. The Suicide Squad would be there. That's a Waller issue.
Or some members of the Justice Society would be like coming down.
Right, you would think that that's a Hawkman issue. Like, he's going to fly in and fix that shit. That's a Black Adam situation. If they're going to go to the Middle East and fuck with the inner gang doing some dictator shit in the Middle East, it's like, wouldn't you also check on the giant glass dome that now has the city of Philadelphia trapped for a week straight with gods involved? Like, you think that has Wonder Woman written all over it?
No, yeah. No, I'm 100% with you, and I kind of had this feeling watching the movie where, like, I think the feeling I had from the first one where I was really happy that it was, like, tended to be, like, standalone. I think this was one where I was like, you know, I'm kind of getting a little annoyed with how much it tries to, like, separate itself from the other universe. Like, you can mention other things, like, and not only can you not mention, like, you can bring in other things from this universe. Like, it feels weird that something this huge on a city, like, in America, like Philadelphia, which, from what this movie says, is like the real world Philadelphia, that, like, no one really cares outside. And I felt that was a little strange.
Right.
But I think that's a really, really good point.
I just think it's weird for the DCU. I mean, at this point, there's not much they can do. They're about to reset. So it's like, at this point, just let it. But, like, it's the thing that drives me up a wall, where the only movies that really have felt connected is that the Suicide Squad kind of feels connected to Birds of Prey and the original Suicide Squad, which tangentially sort of makes it connected to Man of Steel and BVS. But it's like, no one mentions Justice League. Even in Aquaman, they don't really mention Justice League. Like, there's no connectivity because they don't know where they're going or what they're doing. And that's why I like the first Shazam, is that the first Shazam knows it's in a DC universe, mentions Batman and Aquaman. They are probably Affleck and Momoa, but we don't need to confirm that necessarily. But that's all you need from a first Shazam movie. This world, something like this happens, you know the Justice League would get involved, and that's why it's like, I don't know, that's what annoys me. But I do appreciate that it does have a little bit of connectivity in a couple cameos, and I'm sure we'll maybe talk about it. But, like, I think that that's the thing I like, and especially knowing where the DCU is going, I'm kind of happy that we at least got it, even if it's not an element that I enjoy about the movie thematically.
No, 100%. I don't want to get into, like, super specifics in the cameos, but there are certain cameos in this movie from, like, returning people. So that was very interesting to see. I think most people probably know that the entire, like, DC franchise is essentially going to be changing drastically very soon with James Gunn and Peter Safran. So, like, there was this sort of, like, sense I was watching this movie where it felt a bit lame duck-esque, but I couldn't find myself holding that against the movie too badly, because at the end of the day, they didn't really know that while the movie was being made. So, yeah.
I think that you can tell this movie was building towards Shazam 3 was going to be Black Adam versus Shazam, and in the end, where they were going to team up and fight Mr. Mind. That was absolutely the direction the third Shazam would go. And that's exactly where they were going to go. They don't mention Black Adam, but you know that's what they're building to. They would do a Black Adam 2 to get ready for Shazam 3, and those two would go, and Sandberg's little Shazam corner of the universe would end. But I think that the thing that I was surprised by was that the post-credit scene is connected to where we're going, where it's like, that was reshot. That was a new Gun edition.
You would think they would have taken that out.
Yes, if we weren't going to use that, that wouldn't be a thing. And to kind of give us that comedic beat with these characters that we know are relevant and will continue gives me that pause to go, maybe Levi will be part of the DCU as Shazam going forward, and that would be that'd be a huge positive for me, because I think I'm so excited for the Flash. The Ezra Miller-ness of it all aside, I think that Keaton coming back is going to be great. Affleck coming back one more time is going to be great, and I think giving us that one final sort of wrap up to this original half of the universe and saying goodbye, and then hitting the reset and sifting through what we're keeping and what we're letting go is going to be fun. But, like, I think what I really liked about this, and what the only element that I hated it about Black Adam, but the Superman cameo at the end of Black Adam at least gave me one last chance to see Henry Cavill in the Superman costume, and now he's gone. So it's like, at least I saw him in costume one more time. I know it doesn't matter, and I know it's my least favorite thing about Black Adam. But, like, I'm happy I saw him in the suit one more time. It's the same way I feel about Affleck. Affleck's probably in the Flash for 10 minutes, but I get to see Batman one more time. It's the way about the last time we're going to see this person, and I'm really happy that I get to see them do the part one more time.
When you were watching Black Adam, did you also put your camera in like the corner of the theater, put the flashlight on when Superman showed up at the end, and just freaked out like a certain Matt Ramos did?
I was sitting there, and the post-credit scene happens, and I'm like, are we going to get Shazam set up here? Because this is what we should get. But I was like, it feels weird for Waller to be the one to send Shazam in. And then Superman comes out, and the theme plays, and I'm like, what the fuck are we doing? Because that's my big issue with that moment, not to take the whole diatribe of Black Adam, I'll keep this short. The thing that drives me nuts about that is that that's like the Joker being like, all right, I'm going to do this big plan. And instead of Batman coming to stop him, they send the Flash. Overkill. That's overkill. It makes no sense, and the Joker's going to get his ass handed to him by super speed. It doesn't make any sense. So it's like, oh, maybe the power scale. It's not. Superman and Black Adam can fight, and it's been done before, but it's a punch him up like Zod Superman is. It's not fun. Shazam and Black Adam's different, where it's like, okay, Shazam is a kid who has god powers, but is a kid fighting an adult of thousands of years with the same powers. I think that's the more fun dynamic rather than just I'm 35-year-old Superman and I have literally died and come back from the dead and killed a space god. So it's all right, fine.
Look, Black Adam wasn't great, but like we don't get too much. The last thing I want to tackle before we give our score, just because I think it's kind of important. I'll be honest. The ending I really was not a fan of. Like, without spoiling anything, I just want to hear what you're feeling. I feel like they really set this up for a super emotional payoff. Like, I was shocked as to where we were going. And within the last 5 minutes, just decides nope and doesn't do that.
Well, I was stunned at that decision. I was like, is this a reshoot? Is this what we're doing to say goodbye? Is this how we're ending Shazam's time and corner in the universe? Like, and we're gonna let them go? And then they just renege on it. And I'm like, well, that's dumb. I think that's a dumb cop-out. And, like, I think the only comedic sort of thing about it, and it's not even a good joke, is the payoff from the dream sequence at the beginning. And the dream sequence at the beginning was, I thought, going to be another funny bit, like similar to the one from the first one. And I was like, that would be really funny if, like, this franchise does this in every movie where they have the outfit and not show the head of the person. I was like, that would be really funny. And then having them pay it off and have that person show up, I was like, this is a great idea. However, I think that it's not the right decision to do. They should have just altered the outcome of that final fight and made it a different way where it's like maybe the outcome's different and the thing that happens doesn't happen that way and he comes out of it in a different way and still gets to meet this person. And it's an even more emotional comedic moment because it's like a reward for being a hero and not a, MacGuffin. And it's like, this is kind of dumb. And I really do hate the ending of Shazam 2. The post-credit scenes both save it a lot for me. I'm not left with that bad taste in my mouth by the ending because both post-credit scenes are phenomenal. But I hate the ending.
Solid post-credit scenes. My major takeaway from the ending was if you were just going to reverse that decision, don't do that decision. We've been here for 35 minutes. This has been awesome. I've been loving this conversation.
I could talk DC forever. I could go down so many rabbit holes.
100%. And I'll definitely ask you some questions before you leave. But we do rate our movies on a scale of 0 to 10 videotapes. 0 is just awful, painful. Like, it hurts to think about. And 10 is a life-changing experience that you are going to remember for the rest of time. On a scale of 0 to 10 videotapes, what would you rank Shazam: Fury of the Gods?
I feel like I would go about a 6.5. On videotapes, I go about a 6.5. I gave it 3.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd, so trying to translate that to 10 gave me a headache. But I feel like this is the closest equivalent I could do. I enjoy the movie. I think it's a good movie. I like it. It's probably around my number 6 or 7 favorite in this franchise. It's sort of the same drop off to me that Wonder Woman 84 has from Wonder Woman. I love the first movie so much. They're both in my top 2. And then I think the sequel is a step down, not like too badly. I think they're both enjoyable, fun movies that definitely have problems that keep it from being great for me. But I will probably not come back to this movie too often, just like I don't go back to Wonder Woman 84 very often, but I don't hate myself whenever I do decide to throw it on and watch it. So I think it is a frivolous, fun time at the movies, and if this is the farewell we have to Levi's Shazam, then I'll take it.
I'm going to be honest. I think this is the first time where I have been in complete lockstep with the guest. I'm also going 6.5 videotapes out of 10. Which to me would be like a decent. I think this is a decent film. Yeah, it definitely does not reach the highs of the first Shazam for me, but I still did enjoy my time throughout the movie. I think the actors really understand these characters in a really great way. Third act aside, I think the first 2 acts are really, really entertaining. If it had a stronger third act, it would be like a 7.5, maybe like an 8 for me personally. But I think with that stuff, I think it just bogs it down just a bit too much. But I did still enjoy my time. If you enjoyed the first Shazam movie, I would recommend you still do go see this in the theaters. If you didn't really enjoy that first Shazam movie, I would say you should probably step away from this.
And I'll throw in, even if you're just looking for a good comedy, I think this is solid. Like, when it comes to the humor, this is fine. Like, you don't really need to know much about the first Shazam, except he's a kid that turns into a superhero. That's kind of all you need. And they very much give you the beauty of flashbacks and recaps, because I didn't watch the first one again going into this. And the plot point about the staff, I forgot about entirely. And when they gave me the flashback about it, I was like, great, perfect, I'm caught up. Thank you very much. I remember now. That's all I needed. So, like, I really think this is just it. If you want to go to the movies this weekend, this is a fun time of the movies. And if you're watching to see where DC's current slate ends and transitions into the new one, worth a watch, because those post-credit scenes alone, I think, give you just at least a tiny taste of what Gunn is going to do. So I'm all in on it.
100%. No, I do like this movie does recap you. It keeps you caught up. And yeah, I definitely enjoyed it. And yeah, like you said, the jokes, if you're just looking for a funny movie, this movie is going to do the job. Well, before you leave, Koho, I'm just going to open up questions and comments to the audience if they want to jump in. I'm actually going to ask you a question real quick. Before I do, I just want to highlight some comments that happened earlier. Shout out to my uncles. God bless them. My Uncle Mike from California said, Uncle Eric loves Wonder Woman. My Uncle Buddy, he's quite a man. And then my Uncle Eric said, Uncle Mike likes the tights. Just calling my uncle out.
I'm gonna guess they're related.
Yes, they are. They are brothers.
Nice to meet you, Payson's uncles.
Yes, really love. They always support me. The question I wanted to ask.
Sure.
Let's say 3 minutes max. What are your hopes for James Gunn's DC universe going forward?
So what I want most from James Gunn's DCU is I hope that we don't do origins for 90% of who we get. I don't need any more Superman, Wonder Woman, or Batman origins. I want to jump into a Batman who has been Batman for 5-6 years and is good at the job. I want Superman who's been Superman for a year or two and still figuring it out. I want Wonder Woman to be basically the same character that we had. And the rest of the universe, I want it to feel like these people like each other, and that these people have maybe even just a little bit of a history. I hope that the Flash and Green Lantern are best friends. I hope we have 2 or 3 Green Lanterns to watch. I love Green Lantern. I hope that we have Robins. Like, I want this world to feel colorful and fun while also being true to what those characters are. The DC characters are not necessarily just dark and dreary, but there's a spirit to them that I think Gunn is going to capture with Superman Legacy, which is now my most anticipated movie of 2025. I think Gunn doing Superman Legacy is going to be great. I am excited to see a world where these characters are done with more honesty to them, where it's like these characters are understood, they're treated with proper respect. And I say that, and that makes me sound like a Snyder bro, because that's not at all true. But like with a certain understanding, I guess, is what I'm looking for, where they understand what this character's about. Superman's about, like, a character, like, I think Gunn understands that Superman is literally a guy who's a superhero because it's the right thing to do. Not because he lost someone, not because he feels like he needs to, because it's just the right thing to do. And that he's doing this because that's how he was raised. And for Batman, I think everyone can write Batman. I think Batman's the easiest character in the world to write. It's just vengeance and hope. And I think those two versions of those two characters being the tentpoles, that's all I want. I don't care if we get wild, crazy, weird outside. Give me an ambush bug movie, gun throw, all the deep cuts you want at me. As long as those characters are true and feel like they live in the same universe as each other, I'm going to watch every single one.
No, 100%. I'm with you. Like, I think James Gunn, I think he has an understanding of these characters just so much more than people like Zack Snyder or even like Walter Hamada, the old producers of the DC. And I think we are in really, really good hands. My one wish is, while we're doing these movies, I hope we don't rush towards like events. Like I hope we take our time. Like here, like I have the comic right back here, but like Kingdom Come, like I would love a Kingdom Come movie. You can't just be like, okay, 2 years into a franchise, we're doing Kingdom Come.
I'm with you. I hope we do hit the storylines. I hope we hit the storylines in like natural pace. I don't want us to do Year One ever again, or even I don't even need the Long Halloween again. But for Batman, if we're gonna do Hush, I don't want Hush to be the first movie out the gate. Or no. like you said, Kingdom Come can't be the first Justice League movie. That needs to be like the 5th or 6th Justice League movie. But I do hope we hit them. I hope we hit them, like, we hit some of the big ones. Like, I hope we do get Blackest Night. I just don't want that to be Green Lantern's first movie.
That makes total sense.
And that's the one that bothers me a little bit, is that the Flash's first movie is Flashpoint. That's a thing that I don't like, is that for the first time we're getting a Flash solo movie, we are doing the most seminal Flash story of his lifetime, but it's also one that comes off the back of 60 years of DC history, and that's why it's a significant event. And that's where you have the rub. So it's good. I think it's going to work. I just think it's a little bummer to me that we don't have a Flash movie that isn't Flashpoint. That's kind of a bummer.
No, 100%. I'm definitely with you. Well, Koa, I think this is and I mean this in the best way possible, I think this is the most amount of time I think I've spent on, like, the first part of my show. And obviously, the guest portion obviously go longer, but it was so much fun talking with you about Shazam Fury of the Gods. Yeah, I am definitely going to get you on for another episode. If there's ever a movie you want to review, just let me know. Like,
I shall.
Yeah. All right. Have a great day, Coho. Thank you once again, Caleb Coho, for reviewing Shazam Fury of the Gods. Well, we may as well just jump in to our second review for the night, the second movie that came out this weekend, and that is Inside, starring Willem Dafoe, directed by Vasilis Katsoupis. I wrote that down. I hope I pronounced that correctly. This is about a art thief, played by Willem Dafoe, who breaks into a giant, like, condo or, like, giant, like, apartment, and he's there to steal some art. And while he's stealing it, an alarm goes off. He gets locked inside. The patrons that own the apartment are not going to be home for a long, long time. And the movie is just watching Willem Dafoe try to survive in this condo while slowly going insane. I wish I could really I am going to be getting more into the movie, but that is your essentially baseline plot synopsis for this movie. And the number one positive I will say about this movie is I don't think anyone could have played this part better than Willem Dafoe. Willem Dafoe is one of the most, like, interesting actors, I think, just to watch, just because he knows, like, the way he delivers his lines, like, he'll be like, there's so much to value in art, and what does this value in life? Like, he just knows how to get under your skin, and even when he's not, like, even when he's not talking, just his mannerisms, like Winter in Michigan. Yes, Uncle Buddy, like Winter in Michigan. Just his mannerisms, just, you feel unease and you feel creepy just by looking at him sometimes. And when you have a movie like this, where it's just him alone, just slowly losing his sanity, to me, it really, really worked. I'll be honest, I really liked this movie. I saw some people weren't the biggest fan of this movie, mainly because they just thought it was a little too slow and it didn't amount to a ton. I didn't care. I could have watched Willem Dafoe going like insane for hours, and I just love. For one, I love how contained this movie feels. This is a fairly large condo that Defoe's character is robbing, so it's not like you don't have like an insane lack of variety of places that you can go. But at the same time, it's only him, and he's just going from maybe 4 or 5 rooms, and you slowly see him just become more and more drained as the movie goes on because he's losing that interactivity with humanity, and you see him slowly start to like make characters with like this because on the TV they have like security cam footage, and he slowly starts to give each person that he sees working at the apartment complex different like personality traits and like what he thinks. Like he'll start being like oh well, I'm concierge Henry, it's a great day to be alive, isn't it? And like he has this weird like relationship with like the housekeeper that many times like almost comes in to check to see if there's anyone in the condo, and no one is able to really he can never get the housekeeper Jasmine to walk in, and you feel it every single time. Even though this guy was there to do nefarious things in this condo, you still feel bad for him as the movie starts to go on. There are just scenes where like the only way, the only source of like water he has is there's a garden inside of the condo, and occasionally the sprinklers will go off, and when that happens, he immediately goes to the sprinkler and just starts like sipping out the water. Uncle Buddy says, silly question, why couldn't he get out? The reason why he couldn't get out, Eric, was when he goes into the apartment, he accidentally triggers like an alarm, and it's a really heavy duty alarm where the second the alarm goes off, all these windows and all these doors just it essentially locks anyone inside. And it seems like the person that was supposed to be coming over was on a long vacation, so he was essentially in there for like a few weeks just losing his mind. He slowly starts to ration the fridge and just trying to survive any possible really way he can. Around halfway through the movie, he figures out that if he carves the certain tools that were meant for the gardening, he could kind of like carve out slowly the like ceiling lights, and that's how the like second half of this movie sort of goes, is him just trying to break out of the condo by just crawling out of the lights. And I think it was really, really effective. I'll be honest, this movie is about an hour and 45 minutes. I think it probably could have been an hour and a half. I think you could maybe lose like maybe 15 minutes of it. But at the same time, I think you really, really need that, that just like aching, like claustrophobia to really make you feel uncomfortable while you're watching this movie. And that's why I think it's so effective. A movie like this, you need good direction. You need a great actor to pull it off. As I said, Willem Dafoe, I think, is such a phenomenal actor to pull these sorts of roles off. And I think the direction by Vasilis Katsoupis was really, really effective. The plot line I said with like the housekeeper of him like slowly starting to imagine stuff with like how the housekeeper's personality is, it doesn't really go anywhere, and it gets a little weird at points, but like a movie like this, it makes sense for it to get as weird as it does. And I think the only other thing that keeps me from like adoring this movie is towards the last half, it tries to have a slightly more of a metaphorical look on like why he's doing this and like what this has to say about like art and like what it feels to get inside of art. That didn't really work for me, and I feel like it was trying to get to that. I think it should have maybe tackled it at different points in the movie a little stronger, but at the end of the day, I do think this movie did really, really work for me, mainly just because of how good I think Willem Dafoe is. If I were to rate it on a scale of 0 to 10 videotapes, I would give it a solid 7.5. I think this is a good, the more I think about it, I'm gonna bump it up to an 8. I think this is a great movie. I think for what it's trying to do, I think it's a really, really solid thriller. If you have the time, I would really recommend you go and see this in the theater. You will not be disappointed. And if you can't, catch it the second it comes out on streaming, because I think you're going to have a lot of fun if you like just like cerebral films like this. This movie shows why he was so good in Platoon. Yeah, Eric, yeah, I think he's great in Platoon. If you haven't seen it, The Florida Project is probably my favorite Willem Dafoe role. Just a really like sweet like character he plays in that movie as being like the manager of this motel. But yeah, I think this is a great movie. Well, before we head out, I'm just going to open it up to comments one more time. If anyone has any questions they want to ask me, just feel free to shoot them here. But yeah, I think Focus Features is like one of my favorite film studios. They were the guys that did Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, which is like one of my favorite movies of all time. They did A Serious Man, which I would recommend to anyone if you're willing to watch movies that make you feel bad about the world. I think A Serious Man is a great movie. And yeah, Focus Features, I can always count on them to make these like really cool small indie movies and release them in theaters. And I will always be really, really happy for that. I'm just waiting for any comments if you guys want to ask anything. I'm just looking at stuff. If I were to recommend another Willem Dafoe role, if anyone's never seen The Life Aquatic, it came out in 2004. Willem Dafoe plays like a side role in that. It's essentially about this guy played by Bill Murray. He's hunting a jaguar shark, and Willem Dafoe plays his first mate. Really funny movie, and I'd recommend anyone. It's not like the strongest Wes Anderson movie out there, but for like Dafoe roles, that is one that I would always recommend. Well, it doesn't quite look like we have any comments today. If I get any towards the sign-off, I'll definitely read them. But thank you all for watching the Cinemasters review. Remember to like this video. Subscribe to the video store. We release so many great videos. If you liked Coho, him and Boatman have a show called Filmography where they go through different actors, directors, screenwriters' career. Right now they're doing the works of Ben Affleck's directed films, like they just did Gone Baby Gone. They're going to be doing The Town, where they're essentially leading up to Air, which comes out in April, which I will definitely be reviewing. I'm pretty sure I know the guest I want to get on for that. Looks like we got one more comment. What did my mom make for dinner tonight? Uncle Buddy, I'm not sure. I'm sure it's going to be great because my mom makes great food. But thank you, Uncle Buddy. But yeah, just remember to like and subscribe to the video store. Remember, March 30th, the Video Store Movie Club. We are covering the works of Pedro Almodovar and his career, specifically Talk to Her, Voltaire, and The Skin I Live In. I'm going to be pestering Zari to make an image for that, but I'm really excited for that. And then, yeah, just keep watching movies like you always do. Keep watching content on the video store, and have a great night.
And the award for most vapid film review of the century goes to...
Okay, movie review. Okay, I thought it was beauty.
And he's now in cinema hell, where one day we'll all be reunited.
This is me at the Regal Cinema crying as I did through much of the film.